In this video, we'll look at how to create custom drivers in SAVI. This is a required step when needing to control devices which don't have a pre-made driver in Creator's equipment section. I'll show you how to create a driver, use it to add equipment to your project, as well as connecting it to whatever device will be sending commands to it. To begin, click the Create Custom Driver button in the Equipment tab. First, give the driver a name. For my example, I'll make a driver to control the serial displays in my venue, so I'll name this Serial Display, then change the control type to Serial. For this video, I'll be using a serial example, but know that if it's a device receiving IR commands, the process shown here will be mostly the same, with the exception of the command codes used. If you were making a custom IR driver, the commands would need to be in Pronto hex format. I'll leave the device type set to TV, but know there are 3 other types we can create drivers for listed here, and whichever you choose will determine what commands appear as options for the driver. Now at the bottom we have 3 tabs. The first is Commands, where I can open the drop-down and choose each command I'm planning to use and then enter the code for it. In many cases, you can learn the codes from the manufacturer's documentation or from other reputable organizations that publish technical info. Keep in mind, each device and family of devices are different. Some require carriage returns, some are case sensitive while others aren't, and some will ignore spacing, while others require spaces in specific locations. While the physical wiring or network issues may be contributing to errors, in most cases it's the codes for the commands that are often the root cause. You may need to try a variety of formats before the commands are executed properly. Once all the commands you need to have codes for are entered, you can click the Inputs tab and add any additional inputs that you intend to plug into this device. Obviously, the serial input is included with the driver, but it doesn't show up in this list since these are optional additional inputs like HDMI. I'll go ahead and add an input for my HDMI 1 input. Click Add, then choose Audio Video for the type. I'll then click the checkbox and hit Rename so I can name this HDMI 1. Now if I go back to the command list, I can choose HDMI 1 and enter the proper code that would make the display change to this input. Normally, when the device you're controlling is an endpoint, you can ignore the Output tab. However, if the driver is for a satellite receiver, the Output tab is where you'd list the HDMI, which you would later connect to a Stream 1 or HDMI matrix in the Connections tab. With my new serial display driver complete, I can add it to Creator. Now it's in my list of drivers. If I select it, I can begin adding 1 or more devices to my project using this driver. For this example, I'll select it and write bar serial for the name and change the location to bar. I also need to enter all the required settings in order for the serial commands to be sent correctly. This is another example of when you need to consult the manual or other relevant technical documentation for the device in question in order to set the exact parameters the device is programmed to communicate with. I have these values for my displays saved on my PC, so I can go ahead and enter those values into these fields now. Now I can hit Add Multiple, enter 10 for the quantity, and click OK. Before I can start sending commands, I need to make the connections, so I'll go to the Connections tab, use the search filter, and for each bar serial display, I'll choose whichever device is sending the serial commands. In this case, we're using an RS-232 module on a SAVI Connect I, which I've already added to my project. Configuring the Connect I is a separate process covered in another SAVI training video, which is also linked in the description below. Once you've made the connection for all your serial displays, you can head back to the Equipment tab and send some test commands to verify functionality. If I select bar serial 1, I can click the remote icon and test the various commands from here just by clicking the buttons. You can also select multiple displays at once and send a command to all of them simultaneously. Also keep in mind that at any time you can edit the driver itself by locating it in the list and clicking the pencil icon. Any changes I make here will take immediate effect, so if I edit a command code and hit save, that command will be updated for any existing devices in the project which use this driver. Also, because you can always come back to edit or add new commands at any time, it's a good idea to get the driver up and running, make connections, and then test with one simple command, and then come back and add the rest of them once you know it's working. Now that these devices are in the project, I can control them in Facility View. I can turn them on or off, or assign a source like I would any other display. And remember, you can also send commands to several displays at once on a schedule or based off of an event by using macros. With these displays selected, you can see the full list of commands available. One final note is that after all your custom drivers are saved, you can export the SAVI project and import it to a newly installed server where those drivers will be needed. This can save you a lot of time if you're intending to use these drivers in multiple venues. This concludes the video on creating custom drivers. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more SAVI training videos.